I feel very sad because I have young boys that age too, and it's very heartbreaking.
Young lives lost in a senseless flurry of extreme violence. A Toronto neighborhood woken up by a barrage of bullets. 2 men left to die on the pavement. Good evening. In just moments, you'll hear disturbing and unsettling accounts from those who witnessed the chaos with their own eyes.
Their street now a murder scene. Residents in complete shock as investigators work to identify the victims and their killers. CTV's Janice Golding is live on Hickory Tree Road near Weston with tonight's top story. Janice.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, police say when they arrived here overnight, they found 2 men with multiple gunshot wounds, but there was no trace of those involved in their shooting. And now they're asking the public for help. Residents on Hickory Tree Road say they were startled from sleep by blasts of gunfire.
I don't know about that a lot.
I heard somebody crying, but I couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman, but I heard crying.
There's rapid fire. It had to be multiple guns. Someone screaming, it sounded like he was saying, "Help me." He was just screaming out like, "Ah."
Dozens of shots rang out around 4:40 a.m.
I saw the police attending to a man dying, and we could watch his body as he got limp. The other man, they were working on him for over 20 minutes. I could see the fireman up and down continuously.
Emergency workers fighting in vain to keep 2 men on either side of the road alive. But the victims would be pronounced dead in hospital.
Horrifying. My child is 9 years old, and she watched a man. She heard him take his last words and also watched him die outside of her window today. None of the kids in this building went to school today. They're going to be traumatized for the rest of their lives.
Police canvassed buildings in the area today looking for information and surveillance video. They also made an appeal to the public.
We're looking for witnesses. This is a very densely populated area, and although this occurred in the early morning hours, there are a lot of residents in this area that may have heard or seen something that may assist us in our investigation.
Police are working to identify the men who were shot, at this time saying only they believe they were in their 20s or early 30s.
I feel very sad because I have young boys that age too, and it's very heartbreaking.
Very bad, because my kids are, working class children, and they could be going out at that time to go to work and, come like in crossfire in something like that.
And while no one we spoke to today said they knew the deceased.
I'm still in shock. Since this happened, I've been pacing around my house like I don't know what to do with myself today.
The images of what they saw will not soon leave them.
When we walk out on that street, we're going to remember.
Now, police won't or can't say whether or not this was a drive-by shooting or a targeted attack. Still, while we don't know whether or not this is related, multiple area residents tell us they heard a car screeching away from the scene just moments after the gunfire erupted. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. And this isn't the only fresh case of gun violence on the desk of police investigators tonight. In the entertainment district, 3 people were hurt, shot early this morning near Blue Jays Way and Wellington.
Upon their arrival, they located 2 individuals on the sidewalk on Blue Jays Way with gunshot wounds. There's a male, approximately mid to late 30s, that had sustained a gunshot wound to the leg, and a female in her early 20s that had sustained a gunshot wound to her hand and her finger more specifically. Those individuals were treated at the scene and transported to a nearby hospital where they remain and are in stable condition.
Police say the shooting appears to be targeted. They're looking for at least 2 suspects.
It's a family seeking justice. A young black man detained, tasered, and assaulted after Toronto police officers mistook him for a suspect.
2 officers have pleaded guilty to separate disciplinary charges connected to the incident. CTV's Scott Lightfoot is live with more. Scott.
Well, Nathan, a guilty plea and an apology today from a sergeant involved in this incident. Tonight, the mother of the young man at the center of this mistaken identity arrest says she wants other police officers to think of her son's story when they initiate interactions with members of BIPOC communities.
What happened to him is difficult, was difficult, still is difficult for me, but we're healing.
For the second day in a row, Christine Stout Ogilvie showed up at police headquarters to watch the disciplinary hearing of the officers who improperly and illegally detained her son in a case of mistaken identity.
It is a shocking case wherein a member of the public was met with unnecessary use of force.
It was in this parking lot back in August of 2021 that Hassani Ogilvie was stopped by Toronto police while walking to school. The officers were looking for a suspect whose description was similar to that of the U of T student who was asked that his identity not be shown.
He was taken to the ground by 3 officers minutes after being approached by them. He was tasered 5 times and a knee put across his neck.
2.5 years later, 2 of the officers involved have now had disciplinary hearings. Yesterday, Constable Seth Rietkotter pleaded guilty to using unnecessary force. Today, appearing virtually, Sergeant Rachel Saliba pleaded guilty to unlawful or unnecessary exercise of authority. Ogilvie's lawyer and mother say this case is an example of a bigger issue within Toronto police and their interactions with the black community.
In the pleas and in the agreed statement of facts, race isn't mentioned as playing a role in the interaction. It will no doubt be hard work to address systemic anti-black biases within TPS, but we must do so with more than mere apologies.
Ogilvie's mother says she hopes police officers will think twice the next time they approach someone like her son.
I say this from the bottom of my heart and at the risk of being emotional. Please treat them with dignity. Please treat them with dignity. Please remember that you may be a father or you may have a brother out there and you'd like them to be treated just the same way that the mothers of young black men would like their sons to be treated.
So as for punishments, a joint submission on both accounts is calling for a temporary demotion, one for 8 months, one for a year. Decision on that could take several weeks. A civil suit in this matter was settled late last year, but the family, through their lawyer, still fighting to have the body-worn camera footage released publicly or made publicly available. You know, without the existence of that footage, it's unknown how much of this incident would ever have come to light. Reporting live outside police headquarters, I'm Scott Lightfoot. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Scott. And straight ahead, parking fines set to go way up. The infractions that could come with a steep penalty.
And talk about a wild weather day. Thunder, lightning, rain, wind, just about everything. Thank you to Shield in Georgetown for that video that we showed you of the hail pounding the deck this afternoon. A storm making its way through the GTA, something you'd expect to see in the middle of the summer. And that's a shot of how things are right now, this hour, from our camera at the top of the CN Tower. Much calmer than just a couple of hours ago. Jessica Smith is here with a look at the current conditions. Quite the day, Jess.
We've gotten everything. As you mentioned throughout the day, we saw sunshine this morning, rain, lightning, thunder, hail, and now a bit of a reprieve, at least for a few hours, and then it returns again as we head through the overnight. The bulk of this line of showers has pushed its way past, but as the system rotates counterclockwise, we're looking at another dose of it as we head through the kind of overnight hours. But for now, it is still very mild out there. We're at 17 right now through Windsor, 11 in London, 11 here in the city of Toronto, over towards Pearson, through the airport, mild as well. We're looking at some statements in place for the wind tomorrow, flash freezing warnings in place for tomorrow. This is all a heads up as we head in towards our Wednesday. Things get even dicier. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long range forecast. We'll break it all down to help you get to and from your destination safely. I'll send things over to Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Now to an ongoing CTV News investigation that's discovered what appears to be hundreds of automated speeding and red light tickets to police going missing.
With neither the city nor the TPS able to provide answers. As CTV's John Woodward reports, the discovery comes after some dramatic incidents involving police vehicles.
This is a ticket city cameras issued to a police van speeding 44 in a 30 kilometers an hour zone. Police can legally speed in an emergency, but the markings on this vehicle indicate it's a records management police vehicle, which usually doesn't go to emergencies. And perhaps ironically, over at City Hall, there's no record of this ticket ever being issued. In fact, a close read of over 400 tickets which police provided to CTV News after a 2-year Freedom of Information request battle shows it's not the only ticket that the city appears to have lost track of. We have copies of 122 tickets that were not in their database. And over at the Toronto Police, the service also had no record of 221 speeding tickets the city says it issued, as well as 77 red light tickets. Filling in the gaps, it looks like there are hundreds more tickets than we previously reported. It's actually at least 1,160 speeding tickets and 241 red light tickets in a 2-year period. We went to the city to ask them where these missing tickets might have gone. We're still waiting. The driving by Toronto police officers top of mind after a dramatic crash by a police car on Fort York Boulevard that downed a traffic pole and put pedestrians in danger. One cruiser hit a pedestrian in something the police first refused to deem a collision, but now Professional Standards is investigating. And a cyclist was seriously injured in a crash on Bloor Street. The tickets, a hot topic of conversation.
I think sometimes it's chaotic.
Maybe they need to up their technology? I don't know.
Wow, that's crazy. I don't even know what to say to that.
Even if we could get a full record, finding out what discipline the driver actually faced is difficult. Toronto police say the Police Service Act requires them to preserve secrecy with respect to this information unless a matter proceeds to a hearing before the Police Disciplinary Tribunal. Toronto's mayor calling for transparency in how the police handle the tickets.
I trust that the chief will want to make sure that every officers are accountable and that he would have a transparent process to tell the public and to council.
Though some of those records appear to be disappearing faster than the recorded speed of this records management vehicle. John Woodward, CTV News.
If you're the kind of driver who takes your chances on parking illegally in Toronto, getting caught could soon cost you more.
$75 for a standard parking ticket. That's what's on the table at City Hall right now, and that's where we find our Natalie Johnson tonight with the latest on this debate. Natalie.
Well, Michelle, the cost of parking tickets in Toronto is now one step closer to going way up after a city committee today narrowly advanced the plan to hike the fines, though some councillors are vowing to fight the plan at full council, saying drivers simply can't afford it.
If you forget to feed the meter, your next parking ticket could be a whopping $75.
You need to be fair. You need to be reasonable.
It is not an easy city. It's an expensive city to live in.
A city for the rich.
And some councillors say they won't be backing a plan to jack up the cost of parking penalties.
Toronto's already a hyper-expensive city to live in, so we've got to be very careful. And to think that, it's not going to hurt people, it will.
City staff, though, say more than doubling the fee on many parking offences would make drivers think twice about parking illegally.
Maybe they're accustomed to receiving a $30 fine, but once they receive a $75 fine, they will change their behavior. That's what we're hoping.
Higher compliance will result in, vehicles parking properly, obeying the laws, and providing a better level of, or less congestion in the city.
If approved, parking without paying at a meter, parking in a permit location without a permit, and parking longer than 3 hours would get you a $75 ticket in Toronto, up from $30 now.
It's important that we recognize that in some areas it's not posted that you can only park for 3 hours, so somebody could be going to visit grandma and get a surprise when they find out after parking for 3 hours and 10 minutes that it wasn't allowed.
Just abiding by the law moves traffic more efficiently. And we've got to get that through to people.
But others say a $75 parking ticket is not the way to do it.
You are seen to unfairly, unreasonably, all of a sudden double them willy-nilly for no good reason. Then I think what happens is that angers people.
People who will be in for some sticker shock of what's on their windshield if full council passes the plan next month.
And if council does approve this plan in March, the hikes would take a few months to implement. The pricier penalties would take effect in August. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. The Ford government is facing more pressure over its judicial appointment process.
The Premier says he will not back down on the idea of former staffers sitting on the committee which appoints Ontario judges. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live with more. Siobhan.
Well, we've heard some voices in the legal community say that Doug Ford's words present a significant threat to the independence of the judicial system. Still, we're seeing Doug Ford stick by those words.
I'm not going to double down, I'm tripling down now.
An amped-up Doug Ford defending an intent to appoint like-minded judges. There have been accusations of political interference after 2 of the Premier's former staffers were selected for a panel that picks judges.
I'm sick and tired of judges letting these people out on bail. We're going to hire tough judges, tough JPs. That's what we're doing.
The opposition leader sees the Premier's big talk as a distraction.
If bad people are being released, and good people are sitting behind bars when they shouldn't be, it's on this government and their chronic underfunding of our court system.
Marit Stiles urged the Attorney General to distance himself from the Premier's comments.
We are democratically elected to select judges, and then they have their independence. So I'll take no lectures from the NDP on how their system should work.
Insisting the government is hands-off with the panel.
They do good work, we take their advice, and we don't meddle with them.
A response that shocked Stiles. She's considering a complaint to the Integrity Commissioner.
This is a government that's now proposing the Americanization of our judicial appointments, of our court system. That is abhorrent to most Ontarians.
The government is also getting hammered for the way it's tracking progress on its goal of building 1.5 million homes by 2031.
It's called the new math for under this government, and it doesn't work.
Ontario has lumped long-term care beds into its tally. The government says last year, just over 109,000 homes were added. More than 89,000 were new houses, apartments, condos, but over 9,800 were beds in long-term care. The rest, homes added in basements and laneways.
We want homes that people can move into, that they can sell, that they can raise their family in.
Opposition parties agree beds shouldn't count towards the housing target total.
Now that they're playing around with the numbers, to me is a sign that this government is failing to deliver on the homes Ontarians need.
We'll get a sense of where the government wants to go next on the housing file when they introduce their Housing Action Supply Bill next month. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. New numbers show nearly 1/4 of Canadian teens are victims of cyber-related hate crimes.
In the last 4 years, the number of incidents have more than doubled. Those troubling stats released the day after Ottawa tabled legislation to tackle the issue. CTV's Mike LeCouture reports.
What I'm seeing out there with the youth, it's very discouraging.
Leah Parsons admits she has a jaded sense of humanity. 11 years ago, her daughter Rhea was taken off of life support after she attempted to take her own life. It was because photos of a group sexual assault were circulated online, which led to intense bullying. And now her other daughter is experiencing cyberbullying.
I have a 14-year-old daughter who has been violently attacked. It's been videoed. It's been shared on platforms, on social media.
She says the platforms won't take the videos down. And it comes as a new Statistics Canada report shows 12 to 17-year-olds make up nearly 1/4 of victims of cyber-related hate crimes. Now, the government's new bill also proposes increasing the maximum sentence for advocating for genocide from 5 years to life in prison.
We need to establish baseline standards to protect the safety of Canadian children and to protect vulnerable people from hatred.
The bill calls for the creation of a 5-person digital safety commission. If within 24 hours of a complaint, an online platform doesn't remove images shared without consent, or if the content that sexually victimizes a child or survivor of abuse remains online, well, the commission can force them to remove it.
The law says it'll only be 3 to 5 commissioners. I'm not convinced that that actually provides the full scope of perspectives that you would want.
In a statement to CTV News, Meta, the parent company of Facebook, says it supports the goal of protecting young people online, adding, "We look forward to collaborating with lawmakers and industry peers on our long-standing priority to keep Canadians safe."
Leah Parsons says this new legislation does give her hope that there will be better protections for children, but she believes more is needed. Mike LeCouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
3 unions representing more than 260,000 public sector workers are calling on the federal government to pay damages for workers who've been underpaid, overpaid, or not paid at all.
8 years later, still trying to clean up the mess around the problem-plagued Phoenix payment system. CTV's Austin Lee reports.
If it wasn't for the Phoenix payroll system, I'd actually still be working because I enjoyed the work. But I said, I can't do this anymore.
Janice Dobbs is just one of hundreds of thousands of people still experiencing pay issues since the Phoenix Pay system was implemented 8 years ago.
Payday after payday after payday, employees are suffering pay problems.
The goal was to save money by consolidating pay systems for more than 45 different government departments, but instead it has caused countless problems for federal government workers.
This is a crisis. This is still a crisis. This is just a lingering effect of an old system. This is an active, ongoing crisis.
4 years ago, workers who were paid through the Phoenix system were compensated after the government agreed to pay damages. But issues with the system persist, and the unions are now calling on the feds to pay up once again.
Until federal public sector workers are paid properly and on time every single time, workers deserve additional Phoenix damages.
What that compensation could look like this time around is not yet clear, but for contract workers who aren't part of a union like Dobbs, there is no support.
The contractors don't get any reimbursement or, recompense for any of the frustrations or the dealings that we've had to deal with.
Dobbs spent years doing contract work for the government. Her advice to someone considering a similar role under the Phoenix Pay system?
Don't. I quit because I was just getting so frustrated with adjustments that were being done without even any reason for it. I just was really frustrated. So, no, if somebody's a contractor and thinking about it, no, I wouldn't.
Austin Lee, CTV News.
The federal government is spending $123 million to help build affordable housing units across Canada.
The kinds of projects that are going to benefit from this particular round of funding includes modular housing that's building affordable housing units and missing middle units with panelization, which is one of the most cost-effective and labor-efficient ways that we can build new homes in this country.
Ottawa is giving the money to 8 home builders it says are driving innovation. The goal is to construct more than 5,600 homes. The government is also freezing the $93 million threshold at which the Competition Bureau must be notified of a merger. Those that exceed a certain value are flagged so the Bureau can assess their potential impact.
Canada joined the U.S. and several other countries insisting there will be no deployment of Western troops to Ukraine. The countries scrambled to distance themselves from comments by France's president. Yesterday, Emmanuel Macron said sending Western soldiers should not be ruled out in the future. Today, French officials said Macron had wanted to stimulate debate and that ideas under discussion involved non-combat troops.
There was also reaction today to Joe Biden's suggestion that a ceasefire in Gaza could be reached in less than a week for Ramadan. The U.S. president made the comment last night on late-night TV. Today, Israel, Hamas, and Qatari mediators all expressed caution about progress towards a truce. Hamas is reportedly weighing a proposal agreed to by Israel that would suspend fighting for 40 days. Some hostages would be freed, as well as Palestinian detainees, and Israeli troops would pull out of populated areas. There would also be a surge in humanitarian aid.
Jordan says this is the biggest airdrop operation in Gaza so far. Tons of parcels of ready-made meals were parachuted over several locations along the coast for a second day. Below, hundreds of desperate people rushed to collect them. The joint effort was coordinated with several countries. A senior UN aid official says at least 576,000 people in the territory are one step away from famine. This is 1/4 of the population.
The first U.S. lander on the moon in half a century likely has up to 20 hours of battery life left. Flight controllers are still in contact with Odysseus, which relayed payload data and imagery today. The craft landed Thursday, but its timetable for 7 to 10 days will probably be cut short after a sideways touchdown. The craft is expected to go dark once sunlight can no longer reach its solar panels.
Food charities in this country are bracing for a difficult year ahead. Demand is ballooning.
At least 100,000 Torontonians will, for the first time this year, have to turn to food charities to feed themselves. CTV's Mike Walker reports.
The long lines are a regular occurrence outside the Fort York Food Bank.
I feel pressure.
Christian Herrera is lining up for the first time after recently being laid off from his construction job amid the soaring cost of living.
Because I pay my rent, I don't have money.
Food banks and charities have been experiencing unprecedented demand, a demand that will only rise this year, according to a new report from Second Harvest. Nonprofits across the country are bracing for an 18% increase in demand. That translates to 1 million Canadians who will access a food charity program for the first time.
A lack of affordable housing and financial support for people, on top of persistent inflation and inadequate wages, has made life beyond difficult for so many.
A lifeline for Alina, a mother of 3 who fled the war in Ukraine in June 2022. She says every month it's a difficult choice of paying for bills or groceries.
We'll spend more on food. It will lead to some delays with rent payments, for example.
But charities are buckling under the pressure of the 1,400 nonprofits surveyed across the country. 36% were forced to turn people away last year. In Toronto, that number is even higher at 50%.
Because of limited resources, we had to limit our catchment area.
The Haven on the Queensway in Etobicoke feeds 1,000 people every week. Dozens more are put on waiting lists.
We have limited space. So we have food that comes in on the Tuesday and we give it out right away the Wednesday, Thursday. On top of that, food. The amount of people coming in, the amount of food that we have just doesn't tie.
While Herrera hopes this is only temporary, nonprofits are calling on the federal government to expand the GST grocery rebate and bring back the surplus food rescue program.
There's more than enough food in Canada to feed everybody for 5 months for free. We don't have a food problem. We have a distribution problem.
The report also found that charities will need an additional $76,000 each to match the demand. Mike Walker, CTV News, Toronto.
And at this time of widespread food insecurity, Wendy's is planning a shift to surge pricing. The fast food chain aiming to digitally tweak the cost of menu items based on demand. Coming up, consumers react to the notion of a flexibly priced frosty.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you're looking for a new vehicle, Consumer Reports has released its top picks for 2024. Some old favorites made the list again, but now there are more hybrids and electric cars than ever before. I'll have my reports. That's just ahead.
A day of wild weather and wild temperature swings. The hot spot today was in Windsor at 21 degrees. We saw a daytime high right around 11.1 here in the city. So not quite record-breaking, but that could change as we head into the day tomorrow. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including the deep freeze on the way. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Buying a new vehicle is a big decision and an expensive one. The average new car now costs more than $66,000, according to Auto Trader.
Consumer Reports is out with its top picks for this year, and more hybrid vehicles are on the list. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Nathan and Michelle, when you go to buy a new vehicle, there are now more than 260 models to choose from. Every year, Consumer Reports picks its top 10, and this year there's a shift towards more hybrids and plug-in hybrids. Consumer Reports puts every car it buys through more than 50 tests comparing for owner satisfaction and reliability to determine its top picks.
This year, our top 10 includes 4 hybrids, 3 plug-in hybrid electric vehicles or PHEVs, and 1 EV.
The Toyota RAV4 Prime takes everything drivers love about the popular RAV4 and adds the benefits of a plug-in hybrid. It provides about 65 kilometers of electric-only driving before the gas motor kicks in. The Prime is quieter than the standard RAV4, and it's quicker. The Prime went 0 to 100 a full 2 seconds faster than the gas-only model. Another standout Toyota SUV is the 3-row Highlander hybrid with key safety features, solid reliability, and great fuel economy. From Subaru, the Forester and redesigned Crosstrek are also top picks. Both have secure handling, good fuel economy, and a wide range of safety features. The redesigned Toyota Prius has more horsepower and performance, plus the availability of all-wheel drive. And the plug-in Prius Prime provides about 60 kilometers of pure electric driving and good fuel economy when the hybrid engine kicks in. If you're looking for a truck, the Ford Maverick and Maverick Hybrid provide much of the functionality of a pickup at a fraction of the size and cost. Both versions of the Maverick offer impressive handling and a roomy crew cab interior. If reliability is top on your list, it's hard to do better than the Toyota Camry Hybrid.
The Camry Hybrid receives top marks in CR's reliability data. But it also performs well in our fuel economy tests.
The Camry gets 1,000 kilometers per tank of gas. The BMW X5 and X5 plug-in hybrid are the top luxury SUV choice. Both versions feature immaculate cabins and a premium driving experience. And if you're looking for a sporty drive that won't break the bank, the Mazda 3 was a standout. With 191 horsepower, its engine packs more punch than most rivals and has an impressive interior for the price point.
And the top pick for an all-electric vehicle went to the Tesla Model Y. Like most EVs, it has quick acceleration as well as responsive steering and access to Tesla's supercharger network. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
It is a name that means both tank and rhino in Swahili. Very appropriate for this young fellow. The Toronto Zoo has named its new white rhino calf Kifaru. He was born December 28th, and both mom and baby have spent the last 2 months bonding. Kifaru will make his first outdoor public appearance later this spring when the weather is warmer. There are fewer than 16,000 white rhinos left in the whole wide world. Can't get enough of that little guy, but I think we've had enough rain. What do you think?
Yeah, we got a really good amount. I have to admit, I kind of enjoyed looking at it through the window. It was quite a bit.
Loud.
Nice if you were inside. You could hear at certain points that crack of thunder. People are saying they could feel like, windows shaking, things rattling. And we saw those videos out towards Halton Region through Georgetown. My parents sent me a very similar video of the hail going on there. We saw quite literally a little bit of everything today. And that continues as we head through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. Just a heads up for everybody. We've talked about it all day, but Wednesday night into Thursday, the likelihood of a flash freeze is very high, so just plan ahead and be careful. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. You like sunshine? We had that early on. You like rain? We had that too. We had a little wind, we had a little thunder, a little bit of lightning out there. It really was nonstop as we made our way throughout the day today. The temperature swing that is about to take place is going to be drastic. We topped out at about 21 degrees in areas through Windsor today. They're still sitting at about 17. Here in the city of Toronto, we're still sitting at 11. Through Ottawa, they're at 7. As we head through kind of that midpoint of our day tomorrow, wind direction switches and it gets very cold and very, very windy. Tonight, though, still very mild. We have a break right now from a lot of the heavier rain. So right now through to about 3 a.m. we get a bit of a reprieve, but that changes as we head into the early morning hours. So that's where that icon comes from. We'll be at about 9. The norm is -7. Everybody is wildly above seasonal. Getting into the day tomorrow, more of the same. Again, if we exceed that 11.1 tomorrow, we set a brand new record. And I wouldn't be surprised between today and tomorrow that we set a number of temperature records right across the board. It is going to be at least 10 degrees above seasonal to at least start the day. There's that line of showers we're dealing with right now. We have another round of it kind of coming through as we get through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. Once this cold front pushes its way through, wind direction changes, that's when we see the likelihood for that lake effect snow. So this evening, we stay okay until about, again, that 3:30 a.m. mark, and then it gets really messy. For that morning commute, though, it clears out and we get a bit of a break through the midpoint of the afternoon. Again, not so bad. And then we watch for temperatures to drop in the evening and lake effect snow to carry us through. We're not talking about a significant amount of snow, but it doesn't matter. It will definitely impact the drive, and there's that likelihood of flash freezing. For us, we get the wind that's going to be the issue tomorrow. In addition to the cold areas further east, they're looking at that flash freeze warning. Temperature-wise, again, we really ricochet down back towards just seasonal, but the temperature difference is vast. Getting into our Thursday, we're watching for the chance of those lake effect flurries to start the day, but then we kick off the month of March with sunshine and daytime highs above seasonal, and then we are back in the double digits as we settle into the first few days of March. Michelle.
Thank you, Jess. Also tonight, he says he's just Ken, but Barbie's taking a back seat as Ryan Gosling is locked up to perform his Oscar-nominated ballad on Hollywood's biggest night.
An expert on sepsis says the life-threatening illness is yet another reason why young and old should get their vaccination.
CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan has more.
Yeah, sure. At age 10, Benny Zickerman-Haber is looking forward to becoming a bodybuilder or astronaut or whatever he likes. But when he was 3, he suffered a life-threatening episode of sepsis.
He had some form of undiagnosed strep throat that we didn't know about.
I was in pain for when I woke up for most of the time.
So sepsis is the life-threatening response to an infection, characterized by the infection affecting every organ in the body, potential for every organ.
Dr. Alison Fox-Robichaud says many have a mistaken understanding of sepsis as a blood infection, but the two are different.
The most common cause is pneumonia, probably more than 50 to 60% of that in North America.
In other parts of the world, malaria may be the most common cause of sepsis, and the surge of measles cases globally also has Dr. Fox-Robichaud concerned because measles can also cause sepsis. She says vaccinations against measles, pneumonia, and RSV are one of the best ways to prevent an initial infection that could lead to sepsis. She also emphasizes the importance of recognizing the symptoms early on, things like confusion,
fast breathing, mottling of the skin, not making enough urine, complaint of abdominal pain, sudden nausea and vomiting can be a sign of sepsis.
Benny's mom says they were lucky to find a visible sign of sepsis on his foot.
And that's why it's so important to get this message across, that it showed up, because a lot of children don't have it appear anywhere.
She says they knew nothing about sepsis back in 2016, and it took 6 months for Benny to relearn how to walk. The Zickerman-Habers want all Canadian families to understand how quick and how deadly sepsis can be. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Music is always a big part of the Oscar broadcast, and now one of the most popular movie songs of the year will get the award show treatment.
Ryan Gosling is confirmed to perform at the Academy Awards. CTV's Andrea Case joins us now with all the details. Andrea.
Michelle and Nathan, good evening. Well, if you saw the movie Barbie, you probably can't forget the big number, I'm Just Ken. Well, for which the song was originally not supposed to even be in the film. It's left a huge impression on me.
City of stars, are you shining just for me?
When Ryan Gosling was given the opportunity to sing music at the Oscars from his Oscar-nominated film La La Land in 2017, he declined to play along.
Doesn't seem to matter what I do.
But when it comes to Barbie and Ken, a role he calls the hardest he's ever had to play, he is singing a different tune.
It was scary, but it felt like I totally understood why Greta felt it was necessary. It wasn't in the script. It sort of was something that she kind of got to right before filming. I'm just can't anywhere else I'd be 10.
Both the song and Gosling were nominated for Academy Awards, he for Best Supporting Actor. Some saw his nomination as controversial, as Barbie herself, Margot Robbie, and the film's co-writer and director Greta Gerwig did not receive Oscar noms. At the time, he said to say I'm disappointed would be an understatement. Many wondered if he would perform it on film's biggest night. Earlier this month, the London, Ontario native said he hadn't been asked, and telling Variety magazine in February, it might be too much of a risk to have me do it. I don't know how that would work, but I'm open to it. Well, now they've asked, and he has said yes. The Critics' Choice Award-winning song was written by Mark Ronson and Andrew Wyatt. They even put out a Christmas version. At the Grammys, Ronson said it was his dream to have the 43-year-old sing I'm Just Ken at the Oscars, and substituting another singer was not an option. Barbie goes into the Academy Awards with 8 nominations. In other Oscar news, the names of more presenters have been revealed, including the winners of last year's key acting categories, Ke-Huy Quan, Michelle Yeoh, Brendan Fraser, and Jamie Lee Curtis. Hollywood A-listers Matthew McConaughey, Lupita Nyong'o, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Sam Rockwell, as well as Mahershala Ali, Jessica Lange, and Al Pacino. All Oscar winners. Well, we'll see how it all unfolds on March 10th. I'm looking for a big number. I'm looking for dancers. I'm looking for it all. I'll be tuning in on March 10th to the 96 Academy Awards, and I hope you do too, right here on CTV. Michelle?
And we'll get your recap, I'm sure. Thank you, Andrea. Well, former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison just could not refuse his daughters. They asked that he try to work every Taylor Swift album title into his farewell speech in Parliament today.
My great consolation has always been my lover, Jen, who has always been there for me whenever I need her from dawn and beyond the many midnights we have shared together. See, I'm actually a true numismatic, after all. And I can assure you there is no bad blood, as I've always been someone who's been able to shake it off.
He did get them all in, much to the delight of his daughters.
After the break, the deals can be huge, but it seems meeting up in person to buy something from online marketplaces is a deal breaker for many Ontarians. But a new survey is revealing.
We're looking for witnesses. This is a very densely populated area. And although this occurred in the early morning hours, there are a lot of residents in this area that may have heard or seen something that may assist us in our investigation.
Updating our top stories, police are appealing to the public for information after 2 men were shot and killed in a Weston neighborhood early this morning. The shooting happened shortly after 4:30 on Hickory Tree Road near Lawrence and Weston.
It is a shocking case wherein a member of the public was met with unnecessary use of force.
A second officer has pleaded guilty to misconduct in connection with the arrest of a U of T student in 2021. Hassani Ogilvy was tasered and pinned with a knee on his neck after officers mistook him for a robbery suspect. A third officer is scheduled to appear before a tribunal this week.
Toronto's already a hyper-expensive city to live in, so we've got to be very careful.
The city is considering doubling the penalties for parking tickets, but not everyone on council is on board. City staff say the higher fees could help crack down on illegal parking, but some councillors are concerned about the possible price hike.
On the markets, the Canadian dollar is slipping a fraction to 73.91 U.S. Oil gaining more than $1 to 78.87 U.S. a barrel. And the TSX Composite Index losing 5 points to 21,318.9.
Buying and selling used items on sites like Facebook and Facebook Marketplace and Kijiji have grown in popularity over the years.
But now a new survey shows more and more people are reluctant to meet in person because of safety concerns. Here's CTV's Peter Sperling.
Jamie Lynn Eckhart says she would never use online websites like Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji to buy or sell items.
No, I don't want to meet a random person in a parking lot that I've never met for a $20 chair off of Kijiji.
Like many others, she has concerns.
I think as a woman buying things online, there's definitely a safety component to it, and I value my safety, so I would just rather not.
Nearly 3/4 of Ontarians say they are uncomfortable when it comes to meeting in person to complete buy and sell transactions from peer-to-peer sites like Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji, and 60% uncomfortable because of increased news reports about scams and fraud, according to a survey by GoConfirm.
I think peer-to-peer marketplaces have so much power to bring people together to allow the secondhand economy to really thrive. And I think the fact that people are beginning to get concerned about what's happening there and shy away from using them as much as they can is a real lost opportunity.
Some really good deals, and it works.
Brian Peterkin uses these sites often and is vigilant.
Might go with a friend, but I'm not worried. I just go because when you deal with the people, i.e. on the phone or you can get a sense of their sincerity and honesty.
Ottawa Police has created these safe trade locations at police stations in Canada, Orleans, and here on Elgin Street. While not monitored 24/7, the idea is to take transactions away from secluded parking lots or private residences. In December, Ottawa Police warned of an increase in personal robberies linked to online marketplaces. The police service suggests not meeting at home, and if you can't use a safe trade zone, go to a well-lit, video-surveilled public place with a friend. As for Eckhart, not worth it.
Honestly, you're meeting strangers off the internet, and you never know who you're going to meet.
Peter Sperling, CTV News.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Just ahead, not just for ride sharing anymore, serving up surge pricing in the fast food world. Wendy's plans to boost and lower what you pay for a Baconator and fine-tune the cost of a Frosty, depending on when you come in to eat.
It's a fast food fluctuation creating conversation. Dynamic pricing rolling through some drive-thrus south of the border.
Flexible Frosties, surging singles, or cheaper cheeseburgers. The puns around buns are endless. Here's CTV's Raheem Ladani on the menu modifications.
The longer the line, the higher the price. That will be the reality at Wendy's restaurants in the United States starting next year.
I don't think that's right.
Why not?
It's gouging.
This price-surging model isn't coming to Canada yet, but customers say having to pay more for a six-pack of nuggets depending on the time of day isn't fair.
I'm not constantly going to
Wendy's, but when I do, I don't really feel like I should have a obligation to hit their price demand.
The flip side, though, is if you're craving a late-night Baconator, you may save some money.
I'm always here for a deal.
The Wendy's company is investing millions in high-tech digital menu boards and says it plans to test a number of features such as AI-enabled menu changes and suggestive selling based on factors such as weather.
When we talk about surge pricing, I don't think we're talking about fluctuations in the dollar amounts. I think we're talking pennies. So in an industry where the profit margins are razor thin, surge pricing makes sense.
Other industries like ride-sharing services, airlines, and hotels already use this model, but Wendy's decision is getting a frosty reaction.
We're already paying enough as it is for everything else, and to pay more just because we're coming at lunchtime, I don't think it's fair.
Industry experts believe if and when Wendy's expands price surging into Canada, consumers will adapt.
U.S. consumer is much more price sensitive than the Canadian consumer. Canadian consumers are willing to pay for, what they perceive to be a higher quality.
However, not everyone agrees.
The price should be the same, especially with a chain.
Would it change
all
your
the time.
buying habits?
Oh, for sure. I wouldn't go.
Potentially driving away profit. Raheem Ladani, CTV News.
We'll see. So concerns about the forecast tomorrow.
Yes, so we go from the rain today to a flash freeze tomorrow. So just be careful as you head out because that change happens very quickly into the afternoon. So right around that time you pick up the kids from school, 3, 4 o'clock, we're dipping down cold. So just be careful, plan ahead, and always drive according to the road and weather conditions.
Well, be sure to join Omar Sajidina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.